Welcome back, nMo fans. Returning from our brief intermission. Now, I'm just trying to make sure I'm leaving off in the right area. Uh, okay, we were discussing the DLC and the endings and the financial situation of some of these game companies. I just, like I said, they need to find a middle ground to do proper DLC like Mortal Kombat did. I mean, Mortal Kombat did it really smart, but hopefully they can use that framework and incorporate that in future titles. I hope Sega turns things around this summer. I'm definitely going to support them because I grew up with Sega, and I would hate to see something bad happen to them. So we're going to move on to the next topic. Now, Street Fighter Cross Tekken has been seeing a lot of love and hate. For me, I'm still 50-50 on the game. I have a lot of fun playing it, as I'm sure Nelson does, but, with the diagonal input glitch, that's a whole nother thing that we're going to tackle before the end of the show. But the biggest problem right now is the timeouts. The timeouts have really screwed the game up, like, more than anything. It kind of, how can I put my thumb on it? It's like, for instance, they were talking about the NorCal finals, right? And
Mhm.
how uneventful it was, and how people are using the time as a weapon against
Well,
better players, And like, I know what you're about to say, Demizzle. That was something that was brought over from Tekken, we know. But considering that this is a crossover game, they should have did a better job at marrying the two formats instead of taking, okay, we're gonna take this from Tekken, we're gonna take that from Street Fighter, and bam, and not make anything cross in between. So with considering that you have 99 seconds per round with two double the energy, you're doubling the life. You have 2,000 life, right? And this is not
yeah,
even considering that, yeah, you take one guy out by chance, that's fine. But you have to put the timer to accommodate for two life bars on screen, because you got people like, hell, there was a time a guy was cheesing me on ranked match, and I was like, you know what, fuck this. I went and used Raven, and I pretty much zoned him out. When he beat up Raven, all I did was tag in Chun Li, and all I had to do was brave a couple of hits. There was no way he can come back, you know. But Demizzle, I'm gonna give you a chance to respond, and then Nelson.
it's like for Tekken players, that's nothing new because that's a viable strategy in Tekken Tag Tournament, and that you only have to beat one of the characters, and you can pretty much chip away, chip away, chip away, and get them down to low life. And if you're fighting a high level opponent, you can essentially just play keep away, and the game doesn't penalize you for doing that because it's a viable strategy. And that you can just run out the clock and just keep away from the opponent. That's one of the mainstays of the Tekken series, starting with Tekken 4, and it made its way into Tekken Tag Tournament, and it's been there ever since. And when you talk to Tekken players, that's a chief complaint of theirs, but they've long accepted it since it's been in the series for so long.
Okay, okay. Nelson, what do you think?
Oh boy, what did I think about this? Well, just to start off topic, not to badmouth Tekken, but that game is pure shit, and I'll never support that. But moving on,
Mm.
the timeout situation, they can easily fix that by doing what they did with Guilty Gear. And if you stay away from the opponent trying to lame it out, just put negative edge on, start decreasing their health and their super gauge, and they'll get penalized for
Thank
it.
you
That's an
very
easy
much.
fix.
Thank you.
Very, very easy fix.
You know what,
Well,
NMO fans? Nelson made the critical point right there. You see, Guilty Gear was a game where it rewarded you for doing well, and it penalized you for lame ass play. It forced you into actually getting in there and fighting. If you weren't good, you're gonna have to learn to be good. You know what I mean? So you can't sit there and back up, because I remember when we used to play with On Your Knees, before we were playing at his house, he would use Kai Kiske. And, he would do the lightning move. And then he's like, where's my super? And I knew his bar was draining, but he didn't understand the system just yet. And Then I told him, he's like, "Oh, okay, I see how it is." And then when it just got into like I'm in his face and he's in my face, it made for a better experience when we were playing the game. It made it tense. You know what I mean? Now with Street Fighter Cross Tekken, it's like there's no penalty for it, no penalty whatsoever. So if somebody is laming out and zoning out and doing all that stuff, yeah, it's part of a strategy. I mean, it'll kill Dalsim players and it'll kill Raven zone type players, you know. But Demizel, you were about to say something. Go ahead.
Like another easy fix is like one that's found in like many fighting games. You can adjust the like patch in a an adjustment for the time gauge because a lot of fighting games under options have options for the timer where it's like slowest, slow, normal, fast, and fastest.
Yeah, 3 ticks per second, like CVS2.
Yeah, and you can easily do it like that. That would be like the easiest fix you can possibly do
Hmm.
is to have an adjustment for the timer gauge and have or even online you can set it for if they could put it for having you set for no time.
Yeah.
So you that timeout strategy won't even come into play because people who are trying to hang back will realize like, well, this will just essentially go on forever, so I got to get in there and fight.
Uh-huh. Now Nelson will tell you when we play on endless, we can turn the time off on endless, but in rank battle, you can't. You know, yeah,
Yeah.
and you're pretty much like, okay. And this is what I think. It's like there's do certain people at Capcom fully play test the games? Like do they realize like all the situations that can be found like with Marvel vs. Capcom 3? I'm pretty sure if somebody got caught in Deadpool's Katamarama super bounce and Wesker's reset and all that, I mean, if they got hit with that stuff, would they think differently?
I'll put it to you like this: there's two answers to that question.
Okay.
Because I beta tested a game before. It was in a QA pool for a company and beta tested their game before they put it out. And there's two answers. One, they don't bring in hardcore gamers to fully test out a game, so they're not accounting for every possible situation that will ever arise in a fighting game.
Mhm.
So, like, they bring in average players. They're like, okay, here's the instructions. Look out for glitches. If you find a glitch, write it down and see if you can reproduce that glitch. They're looking for glitches, not things that can be exploited in fighting games.
Okay. Now
The
Nelson.
se-
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
the second answer is if they were looking for glitches or in exploits, like things that can be exploited for every possible situation,
Mhm.
the game would never come out on time because there's like you I noticed the amount of things that you can complain about, like endless combos, being able to do lots of resets and stuff like that. If you were to tell Nelson or yourself or any hardcore fighting game player like Daigo or anybody else, who's like, okay, find me all the exploits that will ever possibly come out in a fighting game match. That game would be in beta for like a year or more, and it would never get released on time.
Now yeah, Nelson. I wanted you to chime in on that.
Well, basically, I kind of agree with the Mizzle about like, if we sit there and we try to like find everything that we need to do, the game will never get released. But I'm also against it because the perfect example of a game that's actually done that and is coming out next week is Skullgirls. Skullgirls has took the deliberate time to get hardcore players from the West and East Coast to beta test their game for almost 5 years
Yes.
in order for
Yes.
them to complete the ultimate stable game. For infinites, if that was to occur in the game, it gets backsmacked. If you try to do a combo with three characters, the one character will be a little bit more stronger to take on the three teams so for the 3v1s. Like that game was optimized to play for the hardcore players such as like Third Strike or as such as Virtual Fighter. But all these games that are coming out now, like Marvel, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, they're rushing it because one, they need money, and two, they know that the fans that are loyal and dedicated to the
Are
game
gonna buy
is
it.
gonna get it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So That's
Yeah,
the
that's
reason
the
why
that's
it's
the
it's a
thing
thing.
though. With Skullgirls, they can afford to do that because it's a smaller company. They can afford to take their time. They can find all those problems that would arise in an actual fighting game setting, so they can afford to do that. With Capcom, they can't afford to do that because, as you said, we need the money. We got to get the game out there. We got these loyal fans we got to satisfy. So let's put the game out there. If these problems come out, we'll patch it out at a later date, or even we won't address it and say, well, that's just part of the game.
Now,
Well,
I
yeah.
heard you see again, this is not completely credible, but I was told by one of the NMO audience members, they said that, and I hope this isn't true, but if it's not, then hey, we discard it. But if it is, I'm gonna get foot the bird to Christian Severson for saying that uh Street Fighter Cross Tekken is marred with glitches, and the 360 version got shortchanged because we, as the fan base, we as the fighting game community, was putting pressure on them to release the game on whatever time. That is bullshit because we are not the ones to determine when a game comes out. The company is the ones to say, okay, this is our fiscal year release date. This is when we have to get our titles out, and this is what our financial forecast is going to be. Okay, so if we have that kind of power to push Capcom and rush them to make them release an incomplete product or jacked up product, then how come we don't have the power to help to tell them to stop doing this DLC stuff? All we can do is bitch and complain and hope that somebody listens to us. But I don't know if any of you heard that, but it was they sent me like this little paragraph, and I said, "Damn, really? If that's the case, I don't want to believe it. I don't think it's true. But
I
if
think
that's the case, then that's shady, man. That's shady."
total that's total bullshit because like no matter how loud and like how much anticipation has been built up for a game, I've never heard of a company rushing to complete a game early to placate its fans of that game.
Yep.
Never heard of that.
I mean,
So I
yeah, for that to even, be circulating around in the forums, it's like, wow, that's just that's kind of jacked up. What do you think, Nelson?
Well, I did hear about the same news that you just brought up, where Chris Evans stating that the game was rushed on one console than the other because of the fan base and they were trying to rush it. That's complete utter bullshit because first off, you guys are the corporate company. We're your consumers. We don't have any power except to buy your fucking game to build up your goddamn revenue. That's it. We have no say in what goes down. We have no say with the time release schedule. We have no say with the glitches, moves, combos, character requests. That's all on ya. So if you want to bitch and complain at someone, don't blame it on us, the consumers that's trying to buy your product that you're famous for. Just take your time, fix your shit, and do what you got to do. I don't mind honestly waiting like I used to do back in like 2001 for a good fighting game to come out. I don't care if you take 3 to 4 years, as long as it's complete. I'll be more satisfied and I'll put in more money instead of
Exactly.
fucking putting
like
some half-ass fucking game that I got to spend another $100 for still a broken shit. Like right now, I'm on the Xbox version and I'm still having these glitch problems. I'm still having these sound issues that you guys addressed and still haven't fixed. Like, come on now.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's
yeah, go ahead.
that's the thing. Like I agree with Nelson. Like if take your time. It's like I could understand if I was like 20, 19, 20 years old, where I'm like, oh my god, I need this game to come out. But I'm 31 years old now. I can wait. It's not that big of an issue anymore. I got other things I can concentrate on while I wait for this game to come out. So it's not that big of a deal, you know?
True, true, true. And that's why I was saying to myself, I said, you know what? Did I really need this game right now? I would have said, hey, you know what? Release it in the summer, or hell, release it in September along with the Vita version with everything. And I think it would have been all right. It would have been better with public relations with the fighting game community. It's just don't rush the stuff and then have somebody circulate some words that hey, you know what, hey, they put the pressure on us. I'm like, really? And the more I hear that Svensson is saying this stuff, it's like, okay, it's our fault. We help. We pushed them. We hammered them into releasing the game early, and then he runs around and says, "Hey, you know what? The Xbox can't support local co-op." It's like the guy doesn't really know what he's talking about because if you look at some of these other games, they're doing just that. So it's like, this guy, he's just the vice president or whatever of Capcom over here. What he needs to do is keep his mouth shut and let somebody else who knows what the hell they're talking about in terms of what's going on with the dev team. Let the dev teams be the ones to get,
Yeah,
the
like I agree. Like development teams, like specifically need their own PR people instead of having company wide PR people.
yep.
So you can have someone who's like no in the know, going, okay, they're working on this, that, and the other. This is why we couldn't do this, and it would be a legitimate reason why they couldn't do that, rather than company wide PR person talking out their ass, not knowing what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I mean, we're hitting some great topics, but I don't want to go overtime. But I want to hit our last topic, with Street Fighter X Tekken not getting an arcade version release.